Hello, everybody. My name is Reinaldo Rodriguez. I am a candidate master from Venezuela. Today, we are going to continue covering the very popular tournament, the new edition of the Tata Steel, or also known as we can see previously. Here, basically, we are going to do a recap of the best games of the first three rounds. For the first game, we select the game played between the world champion against the Iranian grandmaster Alireza. In this game, Magnus opened with d4, and Alireza played knight f6, c4, e6. This setup is quite common at top level because give to black a lot of options. Normally, black can play Queen's Gambit decline, Nils Indian defense, Benoni defense, Queen's Indian defense. So it's a very flexible setup. Normally, this order of move is used to play the Nils Indian defense. And here, Magnus play the knight f3 move that is known as the anti-Nils Indian because prevents the pin of the knight. Here, with this really, the bishop b4 move is still possible. And the name of that defense will be the Bogo Indian defense. But in this case, Alireza continued with d5, changing to Queen's Gambit decline setup. White plays knight c3, and now here knight b d7. About this move, normally it's more common the bishop move to e7 to prepare short castle, but the move of the knight is a bit more flexible because in some case, black can select if move the bishop forward to b4, for example, in some variants. So now bishop g5, pinning the knight, a6, bishop h4, and finally bishop e7 with the standard setup of the Queen's Gambit decline. Now Magnus decides to relieve the tension in the center of the board with pawn takes on d5. Normally, this character allows the modification of the pawn structure to create the asymmetry and eventually look for the possibility to create a kind of minority attack in case that black recapture with the pawn and create this setup. White eventually is going to try to do this to do a modification in black pawn structure. In the game, Alireza captured with the knight. What really seems to be that black is losing the central pawn, giving to white a lot of advantage of space. Normally, the advantage of space is important when we have a lot of pieces on the board. So with the capture with the knight, black is ready to simplify the position, trading a couple of minor pieces. The bishops and the knight. So with two minor pieces less, the advantage of space will not be too important for white, and really that advantage on space can turn in overexpansion eventually. So takes, e4, winning the space, knight takes on c3, pawn takes on c3, and here after short castle, black is looking for some ideas with c5 to try to put pressure in the center. Magnus continue the development, bishop d3, and finally c5, the central control. Short castle, connecting the major pieces, pawn takes, and now here b6. This is a natural move to complete the development of the Lie school bishop. Here we have a situation where black have a queenside majority. Normally, the majority on the queenside can be considered as a kind of a strategic advantage, but really it's not too easy for black mobilize the majority. And on the contrary, white can try to create a kind of minority attack plan to trade pawns and be able to attack the new isolated pawn through the open file, because here the base is closed because it's being blocked by the pawn on e2. So a4, a5 is a quite common plan in those kind of structures. So Magnus went for that immediately. So bishop b7. Finally, black connects the rooks as well. White, being consistent, push the pawn to a5, getting the rook to pawn on the queen side. Here, black decides to capture without care about the creation of the isolated pawn, because, okay, this is an isolated pawn, but at the same time, it's a passed pawn and it's being supported by a rook from behind. So here, knight f6, to put pressure on e4, rook e1 to support the pawn, rook f d8. Okay, rook to the semi-open file, putting pressure on d4, And here queen A8, queen A1, sorry, multitasking move. Defend the pawn and put pressure in the isolated pawn. So here queen C7. This move is tricky because if white capture the pawn, the queen can be trapped. Let's see here, Magnus decides to play H3 to avoid background issues, but let's see this alternative. In case of the capture, takes, rook here, and the queen is going to be in trouble. C5 is a unique square, but after, let's see the variant, takes, and rook C8, this pawn should fall, okay? Because the rook cannot come here to support the pawn because he's bind to the defense of this guy on e4. So in this variant, happens a lot of simplifications, and black is going to restore the material balance. So after H3, A6, okay, defending the pawn with the bishop. Here, in case of bishop takes, yeah, the pawn on E4 is going to be hanging. So the bishop is defending the pawn and attacking as well. So the capture is not possible yet with our boy simplifications. Rook C5, attacking the queen, force move, queen F4, and now rook E5. The point of this move is try to leave the queen close in this sector of the board because the queen is now misplaced. So knight D7, moving, attacking the rook. So why move the rook? And here, with this repetition, this is an indirect way to offer the draw, and the position is completely balanced. And now Magnus decides to take risks, okay, pushing the pawn to D5. This is a positional pawn sacrifice, okay, because after the capture, white push the pawn to E5, and the idea is liberate the space, the D4 square for the knight, and kick this central pawn, leaving the bishop blocked. So white sacrifices a pawn in order to enable some space for his own pieces and to leave the enemy pieces being blocked by his own pawn structure. So really very clever idea. So here, okay, black decides to take the outputs on E4. That is really a very strong location for the knight. And here, queen D4. Normally, this move is known as centralization of the queen. The queen in this square is very flexible because it's controlling squares on the king side, on the queen side, some invasion squares available potentially. So rook DCA, rook to the open file. Okay, and now this regroup in order to prevent rook C1. Black was looking for simplification, and that makes a lot of sense because black have an extra pawn. So now black push the pawn to A5. So this is a pass pawn being supported by a rook from behind. So as soon as possible, if black push this pawn, eventually this pawn can create a lot of counterplay. So this is a situation where white have to do something pretty active, really, because with each turn, the pawn is advancing, and eventually, if the pawn is too advanced, can represent a very big trouble. So rook AB1, attacking the bishop, bishop C6, and finally, a second pawn sacrifice, positional pawn sacrifice. Basically, the idea of this advance is enable the E5 square for the knight. Probably the point of that is because these outputs on E4 is too strong, and maybe enabling this eventually F3 may be a possibility to take into account to try to remove the strong outputs on E4 that is keeping the E file close. So pawn takes, knight E5, and here queen F6. Regrouping because F3 is incoming, increasing the pressure on the pink on the 4 rank. So prophylactic move, preventing F3, and here, why play F3 anyway? The engine says that the F3 move played by the world champion is a mistake. And here suggests bishop takes on E4, but this is a move made to try to fight for the balance. So normally, if you take a lot of risks, sacrificing 2 pounds, later you will not play for the draw unless the position is hopeless, and it will be the unique way. So Magnus was consistent, and really this move is quite natural because it's the classical way to deal with the enemy outputs, attacking the pieces with a pawn. He did knight G5, and now here with rook B6, okay, white get the invasion square, putting pressure on the bishop. So white is keeping the initiative, pushing the pawn, attacking the knight, getting the invasion square, attacking the bishop, creating intersection points on C6, E6. So maybe not the best way to play according to the stockfish, but in the practical point of view, white is keeping the initiative, and that is a very important psychological factor because the world champion managed to keep continuous pressure on the position. So bishop e8 to square away of the knight, and now queen e3. This move avoid a potential trade of queens because as white have 2 pawns down, simplifications are not good. And also the queen here follow the classical positional pattern in relation with the knight. So black continue pushing his pawn, looking for counterplay in the other flank, and now knight g4. Okay, that was the point of queen e3, be able to relocate the knight, creating new threats in the position. And here queen d8, as far as possible, used to be the best. The most efficient way to kick the initiative are with creating new threats. This couple of moves are engine suggestion, but the world champion did exchange sacrifice, removing the base of the central pawn. And here, black is more or less forced to accept the sacrifice. After this, queen takes, check. And now black have to take a difficult decision because here, the normal move will be king to the corner. But in case of king to the corner, queen f5 create a very strong battery, and also the queen is getting the invasion square on f8, for example. In case of king to the corner, the queen comes here, creating the battery, and in case of something like, for example, let's say g6, queen to f8, followed by knight f6. So here, the best defense will be king to the corner, and against queen f5, black have to play bishop g6. But it's losing material. The checkmate will be unavoidable. So bishop g6, g6. Okay, now this is the third variant. Queen b6 check to later play g6 because the queen will be defending the pawn through the 6th rank. This is really another but very difficult defense. Here, king to f1, g6 or bishop g6. But in any case, black is losing material. Well, in this variant, black have a rook for the 2 minor pieces, but this pawn can create counterplay to be slightly better for black. But that variant is extremely difficult in a human point of view. So for that reason, after queen e6, Alireza did the most natural move, just blocking the check with the bishop. And now here, Magnus find a super strong move, sacrifice of the knight on h6. Check. Black is more or less forced to capture. And now queen takes, and the control on the dart squares and the lie squares is lethal. So there is no defense available for black. The game finished in this way. Queen c7, queen a7, king to f8, queen to the corner, bishop g8, queen a6. So here, unique move. Well, not unique. The king can go forward, but normally the expected continuation will be queen g7. At this moment, Alireza decides to resign. But in case of queen g7, queen d6, king f7, and now queen e7, checkmate. The geometry of this checkmate pattern is this is like it's like a tailmate, really, because we have this configuration. And despite the g6 square is not being occupied by a black pieces, but the bishop is controlling the square. So we can see really the same geometrical pattern. So this was a fantastic game played by the world champion where he did 2 positional pawn sacrifice to enable the squares for the knight and kick the initiative, refusing the draw, offered in an indirect way by the Iranian grandmaster. So very important point. So far, the unique point of the world champion, but without defeats. Okay, so now let's see the second game. The second most important game of the round number 2 was played between Alexander Donchenko and the world player number 2, Fabiano Caruana. For this game, we have a Slav defense, white open with d4, d5, c4, c6, Slav defense, knight f3, knight f6, and here we have this move, e3. This is known as the quiet variant of the Slav defense. Normally, the main continuation here is knight c3, and after this move, white is putting good pressure on d5. Normally, bishop f5 will be premature because white have very good pressure on d5 and the queen can come to b3 to attack b7 and attack d5 at the same time. But with the variant selected by white, this gives to black the opportunity to play bishop f5 because without the knight on c3, there is not enough pressure yet to be able to play queen b3 and create real troubles because with the queen landing on b3 really will not be a double attack. The queen will be attacking only the pawn on b7 because there is no pressure. There is no pressure on d5 because the knight is not on c. So this is a very accurate move, okay, played by Fabi. So knight c3. Now white is ready to do queen b3 to create troubles on d5, but black is on time to play e6. And what we have here is a kind of inverted London system for black. Okay, this is the pyramidal formation with the bishop out of the pawn chain. As happens in the London system, one of the main plans is jump with the knight to the edge of the board to hit the bishop. But in this position, okay, black can move the bishop back, but this move is very accurate by Fabi. Normally, the move in a first glance looks very logical because seems to be like black is losing the bishop pair and probably allowing a damage in the structure after knight takes and pawn takes. But the point of take the outpost with the bishop, this didn't happen in the game. Fabi placed the bishop there, but Donchenko didn't capture because normally, in case of the capture and the recapture with the pawn, covering the f3 square now, this knight is misplaced and there is no good location for the knight. So this is if this is a positional pattern. If we are losing the bishop pair, you can take the outpost with the bishop, recapture with the pawn because in that way the pawn to square away of the knight in the edge of the board, leave the knight without the possibility to be regrouped and return to home. So the bishop d4 move provokes f3, and now after the retreat, okay, white is ready to win the bishop pair, but eventually after the f3 move, the pressure through the open file will be even better than if the pawn will be on f2, because with the pawn on f2, h3 is possible. But with the pawn on f3, play h3 is going to create a lot of weakness on the data square. So that is also the point of bishop d4. So here, bishop d2, white kept the tension to capture the bishop pair. So bishop d7, normal developed move, and finally white decides to capture the bishop pair. Takes, queen c2, knight b d7, simple development, looking for connect the rooks. And after long castle, here we have a6. a6 is looking for the expansion on the queen side, and also black pawn structure is very well placed because as black have a dark square bishop, all the pawns are on light square, covering the color that cannot be controlled by the accent light square bishop. So white play here g4, trying to win more space on the king side. And finally, here Fabi did a very, very important move. An interesting details on c4. This move is counterintuitive because looking at the position that we have, white have the bishop pair. The owner of the bishop pair should try to open the position, trade the central pawns. So here seems to be like black is doing the job that should be done by white. But the justification of that is because this is going to be pretty soon a kind of opposite castle position because Fabi have the possibility to go to the king side or to kick the king in the middle of the board. And really, kick the king in the middle of the board makes more sense considering that this is an open file available for the rook. So he's trying to open the queen side to kick the king in the middle of the board and trying to attack through the new open lines, especially if black managed to open the c5, that would be amazing because the queen and the king are in the same line. So bishop takes, and now b5 expansion. Bishop e2 and c5, second rupture point reached without the bishop pair, but the justification is that is an opposite castle position and black should try to play in the other flank. So we can see how some of the principles in many cases may be contradictory, but we have to assess the advantage and disadvantage and put putting in a balance, what will be the priority. In this case, the initiative on the queen side is very important because the position is very dynamic. So d5, okay, Donchenko is just trying to keep the c5 close, and that makes a lot of sense, okay, to prevent possible skewers. And after knight takes, here the capture with the knight looks for some simplification, and also it's a bit more force than the capture with the pawn. The capture with the pawn may have a trouble that capturing with the pawn, g5 can try to remove the defender. So this is simpler, in my opinion. So knight takes, pawn takes, and here now f4. White is trying to kick the pawns on that square. That makes sense. And here, Fabi play b4. This move, maybe to block the diagonal. I'm probably hoping to get this square to put some pressure on a2, and also winning space to prevent some bishop c3. So e4, as the black king is in the middle, white is trying to open central lines. Okay, so again, we are going to see this move that is a bit strange because all the pawns are in the same color of the bishop. In general lines, that is not too good, but in this case, maybe use c5 because black wants to kick the e file close because the king is going to be in the center because black is not interested in castle to the king side to be able to use the open file. So Donchenko pushed the pawn to e6, looking for the rupture point, undermining the base, hoping to capture on g6. And now, Fabi continued with his own initiative on the queen side, allowing e6, and here a beautiful move played by Fabi, queen d5, centralization of the queen, looking for the invasion square and allowing the capture of the pawn on f7 because after this, king f8, fantastic defensive move. Really, black is going to use this pawn as a shell. The king here is pre-safe. There is no way to attack the king. And in the other hand, black have a very strong initiative on the queen side. So h4, looking for rupture points or continue with attack on the king side. So Fabi capture on a2, queen takes on g6, getting the invasion square, but at the moment there is no forced variant yet. White is going to try to do this and this. So really black have to do something very, very forced. So b3, okay, creating a kind of checkmate net. So bishop e1. Here, the idea is probably enable the d2 square or also be able to use the rook. Here, really, okay, after b3, let me try this. Okay, I think in a practical point of view, maybe h5 will be a bit better to try to do h6 as soon as possible. But okay, here knight a4, queen b1, and knight a4 makes a lot of sense to force white to retreat the queen, avoiding the rupture point here on a6. So in the game, Donchenko play bishop e1. So now c4. This is a pawn storm. Probably he's looking for the rupture point with c3. Now rook takes on d4. The pawn was hanging, and here knight a4, creating a checkmate threat here. So queen b1, unique move to defense, and here a spectacular tactical blow played by Fabi is the unique winning move in the position. Is this one, bishop a3, increasing the pressure in the intersection point. The point of this is that if white capture, as happens in the game, black is going to create an unstoppable pass pawn. The other alternative may be this one, but here after b2 check, okay, king c2, queen b3, that is a hopeless position because the two pawns are advancing with check. So b2, king c2, queen b3, and this will be checkmate very soon. So, okay, here Alexander trade queens, pawn takes, and now there is no way to stop the pawn. He did king c2, and now here the promotion of the queen is possible, but white have this check sacrificing the bishop to capture the new queen promote. So Fabi did a prophylactic move to prevent bishop b4, also to attack on b2. So check, deflection, rook takes, unique move, pawn takes on a3. So why still preserve the idea about do the check and capture the queen? For that reason, Fabi didn't promote yet. He pushed the pawn to c3 to close the diagonal. Now the promotion is a real threat. So bishop g3 to control the promotion square with the rook. Check, king b3, intermediate move. So here, after this move, white decides to resign because in case that the king capture the pawn, this knight comes here with check, attacking the king, forking the bishop, and with a new fork later after the capture of the dot square bishop. Yeah, here other alternative, maybe, for example, king c4, but here white can simply capture the bishop, and eventually this is a exchange of advantage with two passed pawns, and should be more or less easy to convert for black. Okay, so this was probably the best game of the round number 2. Now let's continue with the best game of round number 3. So far, well, the first game was very positional, 2 positional pawn sacrifice. The second game really was quite tactical because it was an opposite castle situation or position. And in the next game, we are going to see another positional masterpieces, but this time was a game played between the actual leader of the tournament, Grandelius Nils from Sweden, and Harikrishna Pentala, the Indian Grandmaster. This time we have a French defense, advanced variant, and against the advanced variant, Harikrishna used this very interesting move. Normally here, as I comment in some of the videos of the series Cleaning the Rating Tower, everybody plays knight c6 in this position. The idea of queen b6 is delay the development of the queenside knight to try to do this maneuver and trade the bad bishop for the good one. And that is exactly what Hari played in this game. So knight f3, bishop d7, and now Nils made the bishop e2 move that really, this is not passive, but this is not the most challenging variant for black, because now black can simply trade pawns and play bishop b5, trading the bad bishop, instead of bishop e2, because as the bishop is going to be trade, really white shouldn't be interested in do a bishop move because black is going to play this and trade the bishop anyway. So the critical variant here is a3, and in the moment, the idea of a3 is cover the b4 square. In the case of bishop b5, white can push the pawn to c4. Logically, black is still interested in get rid of the bad bishop. So takes, and now d5. Okay, with the a3 move, this square is covered, and also with d5, white is trying to create this setup to restrict a lot the black pieces. So black have to capture here, and white can recapture with the queen, centralizing the queen and ready to take the pawn. So this is probably the critical variant against this plan. But this critical variant involves a pawn sacrifice, and nobody likes to sacrifice a pawn. So for that reason, okay, white did bishop e2, but from now, I think, in my opinion, black really managed to balance the game in a very easy way. The end games in general lines should be favorable for black. Even despite in this game, there is no queen trades during all the game, but black have a very comfortable setup, because with each simplification, the advantage of space of white turns in overexpansion. We will see how this happens. So short castle, takes, no back bishop for black. So knight c6, knight c3. Now knight g7, more normal developed move. So queen d3. Okay, Nils is keeping the queen in the opposite color of his bishop. Now rook ca, rook d1, and here a6. This move is very clever because this square may be very important sometimes for white. White would like to put some pressure in the base of the pawn chain, especially on endgame. So This is a very useful move that prevents some background issues in case of the castle, some potential pressure on the base of the pawn chain, and why not? In some case, black can also consider a possible expansion with g5, especially if black is trying to remove a defender, for example, to put pressure in the base. So a lot of ideas with that humble move. So bishop d2, white connect the rooks, knight g6. Okay, knights on 3 knights used to be misplaced. A typical positional pattern involves push the pawn to attack the knight in that new location. So Nils did that, bishop b4. Okay, about this move seems to be like black is giving some options to white to trade the bad bishop for the good one. And indeed, that is happening. But really, it's very important for black be able to castle and connect the rooks to complete the coordination in his position, even at the cost of his best pieces. And also the position is very tricky because, okay, the data square bishop is very important because all the pawns are on Laia square. But at the same time, white pawn structure is on data square. And for example, in case of something like this, like a3, to challenge the bishop, black will be very happy to give away his best pieces because after any recapture, okay, for example, let's follow, okay, bishop takes, this is a case of a potential back bishop because he's going to be blocked by those central pawns, okay, and black have a lot of good squares and possible nice outputs on c4. Something similar happens in the game. So bishop b4, knight a4, okay, white wants to probably to trade the bad bishop for the good one. Okay, queen c7, the queen was under attack. And now h5, okay, makes sense, attacking the knight. Hari retreat, regrouping. And now, okay, a very committal decision played by white, bishop f4. About this move, okay, this is a move that probably is hoping to keep some pressure, waiting for the king's castle. But in other hand, if white don't get any attack on the king, this bishop can be very bad and passive. So, yeah, I think a very practical decision will be the trade of the bishops, followed by queen d2, following this positional pattern. The queen should be very well placed there. But okay, what happened in the game was bishop f4, queen a5, attacking the knight. So now here, provoking b3, and after b3, b5, attacking the knight one more time. The knight have to be retreat to b2. So the knight here is misplaced because it's very close to the edge of the board and also to square away of the pawn on b5. And now bishop a3, attacking the pieces hanging. But the most important thing about the location of the bishop here is that eventually it's going to be controlling the c1 square, and white won't be able to fight for the control of the open file. So queen e2, defending the knight, short castle. Finally, black connects the rooks. Rook a b1 to defend the knight. Rook c7, preparing double rooks. Knight d3, queen b6, b4. Okay, white seems to be that have a very strong output here, but no, it's too easy because there is good pressure on b4. And now black increased the pressure on b4, pushing the pawn to a5. This looks counterintuitive because the queen is in the same line of the rook, but really white don't have any immediate way to increase the pressure on b5. Now, after the recapture with the knight, black is ready to get these super strong outputs, also blocking the diagonal for the queen. Here, finally, Nils regret of his decision about don't trade the data score bishop, and he tried to fix that, but now it's too late because the position is too simplified now. Here, in this position, for that reason, I always say that for a chess player, it's very important to be consistent and loyal to the plan selected. Black is playing on the queen side, and white is playing on the king side. And white decides to keep the bishop on the board before to be able to target some points on the king side. So black have a strong initiative on the queen side. So there is nothing to do in that sector of the board. Here, I think white have to take risks and play g4, g5, and try to complicate the game, looking for his own initiative in the other flank. Instead of that, he did bishop c1, that is a more positional move, but the positional battle is already won by black. So takes, okay, more simplifications. So this is very instructive. See how Harikrishna simplify the position each time, to turns the white advantage of the space in overexpansion. So now knight c4, taking the outputs. Okay, knight b3. White is looking for his outputs on c5, but okay, there is pressure on this pawn. So rook c1, knight c6, g3. Black takes the invasion square. Okay, white can take the outputs, but there is some sacrifice here, leaving the knight hanging on c5. So what black did here is just increase the pressure in the pawn. Rook c2, knight b4, attacking, forking the rook and the pawn. And finally, there is no way to kick things together. So knight takes, the pawn falls, rook d3, and a fantastic tactical finishing for the game. Rook takes on b3, white have to recapture, and now we have the fork. Really, that tactics allow to simplify two new pieces, a rook and a minor piece. So queen here, takes, and queen a4, and now only with an extra pawn, but this pawn is a pass pawn ready to promote and supported by the knight and the queen. So basically, Hari managed to dictate all the game on the queen side because he traded his bad bishop at the start of the game, and from that point of the game, each simplification helped him to consolidate the positional advantage. White never did something on the king side. For that reason, the victory was so smooth in favor of black. So, well, guys, this was the recap of the first stage of this important tournament. I hope you enjoy the comments and the analysis of those games, and hopefully pretty soon we are going to have a new analysis of the next phase. So if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe, share with your friends, and hope to see you soon in a new video.